This is whatever you can color on.
Again, we want to mute people. Everyone has co-hosting's ability, so just mute them if they start talking. If they're not, whoops. Just a few minutes, folks. We'll be starting the meeting. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to record, which.
Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Tirone, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting is being conducted in person and remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which further extends certain provisions of COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until March 31st, 2025. Please note, not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at tonight's meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and all material for this meeting is available at the following link, which I'll provide after I finish this script. Brian Bowe, the Commission Chair, will facilitate tonight's meeting. Please note that there will be a public comment period for each hearing. Each vote taken during tonight's meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. We'll begin by roll call attendance. And Brian, can you review tonight's agenda?
Sure. First, call to order at 7:04. The roll call order will be the order that I'm asking people now. So Walter.
Walter Talbot, member present.
Chirag Staleker, member present.
Tony.
Tony Rodolakis, member present.
Martha.
Martha Moore, Vice Chair present.
Rainbow, Chair present. Now I'll review the agenda. First tonight, we have a hearing for 87 Walker Brook Drive on an amended order of conditions. That'll be followed by Zero Cedar Swamp, which is a continuation of a hearing for a notice of intent. Then there's Bear Meadow Conservation Area, opening a hearing on an RDA. Next is 57 Longwood Road. This is opening a public hearing on a notice of intent. 62 Scotland Road, opening a hearing on an RDA, request for determination of applicability. And that'll be followed by old new business and some discussion items, some minutes for approval, and that will be it. Having said that, why don't we jump right into 87 Walker's Brook? Is there anybody that we need to admit, Chuck?
Yeah. Hi, Peter. I just let you in and I let Gary in. Is there anyone else with you tonight that is here for 87 Walker's Brook Drive?
No, just me and Gary. Thank you.
Okay, Gary. If you want to turn on your mic in your video, that's fine. If not, that's fine also. Sure, there you are. Gary or Peter, whoever, who's going to update the commission on this project, just introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. Peter Viteri from Varel Dana, representing Lee Enterprises Limited.
Gary Magnuson, CMG Environmental, representing Lee Enterprises as well.
Okay. Did you want me to put up the plans, and are you just going to walk us through what, I guess what needs to happen tonight is you just, I know that we went through this before to decide whether this was an amended order of conditions or not, but just I guess a quick version of what you went over before would be helpful, and then comments from the commission.
But if you can, please be brief. That was quite a long agenda we have to get through.
Sure. I'll I'll briefly update the commission on where we are procedurally. We submitted a request for plan change pursuant to section 7D of the Town of Reading's wetland regulations. At the last meeting in September, the commission made a determination that the plan change was significant and would require an amended order of conditions. And since then, we've submitted basically a written request for an amendment to the order of conditions and you know, a notice to abutters and follow the procedures for in DEP, the DEP policy for requesting an amended order of conditions. So the original order of conditions, I believe, was issued at the end of January of this year. The plan change, and Gary could walk through sort of more of the technical details of that, but the plan change essentially includes a drainage culvert that would, you know, a curb, a blocking of the curb gap on the curb that was on the side of the wetland resource area, and redirection of the of stormwater, surface stormwater, into the trench drain or trench culvert into the infiltration sort of area that's located along the highway on the property. So that's the plan change. We submitted it. I think we walked through it last meeting. Gary, I'm sure, is happy to run you through it again, but last meeting was a determination of significance, and this meeting is a vote on whether to approve the amended order of conditions.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody in the commission have any comments or questions we want to get to?
Do you want Gary to run over the plan briefly, or?
Let me ask, does anybody here feel they need more than we got at the last meeting?
No.
No, I think the plan is pretty straightforward.
Okay. And then, are there any questions for these gentlemen?
No.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say,
I
ask?
don't, I just want to remind the commission that we're being asked, I will ask for conditions after you close. So maybe even that, you might have some conditions that you could think about.
Let's try that again. Does anybody have any thoughts, conditions that we'll record in a minute?
The original order of conditions has all the timeframes in it. This would specifically be for this new stormwater improvement.
Right.
And the original order of conditions has all the erosion control, right? So we don't need to worry about that for this one.
Mhm.
I like the plan they presented. I'm fine.
So Gary, I have one question. This still, it needs to be approved by MassDOT, correct?
That is correct. We're working through that, but obviously, once we have the commission's approval, it'll be one of the check boxes that MassDOT's looking for. So it'll facilitate hopefully a quicker process with them.
So this and all the improvements is for the detention area by MassDOT. It's on their property. So I think just the only thing that I would add is, as soon as you hear from MassDOT, to keep the commission informed and provide us the paperwork that they send you for the approval or denial.
Right. But that doesn't get in the way of us moving forward tonight.
No.
Okay, so
Can I move that we approve an amended order of conditions for 87 Walker Brook
I think we'd
Drive?
have to close first.
Oh, do we have to close on this? Okay, I'll move to close on 87 Walker's Brook Drive.
Anybody want to second that?
This is Tony. I'll second that.
Oh, do you want to ask anyone if they, before we continue, maybe someone's here?
Yes. Is there anybody out in online land who has any comments or questions about this?
Yeah, just use your raise hand function to the reaction buttons to the raise hand function, and we'll see you. You'll pop to the top of the screen.
See anybody?
And the reaction button, raise hand function, we'll see you if you have any questions. Seeing none?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so we're ready to vote.
So sorry, before we close, can I make one request regarding the prior order of conditions had a number of special conditions that essentially said the the illicit discharge needs to be resolved before the work can commence. Given this plan change, can the commission include some language in the amended order of conditions that says essentially this plan change has resolved that concern, and the work may can continue according to the plan, essentially just to sort of button up that issue about the prerequisite for commencing the work.
What order are you planning on doing the work? Are you planning on fixing the discharge first before you get to work on the pumps?
It sort of says
Yes.
Conditions.
Okay, right, but I just wanted to make sure that was still the plan. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Seems
So,
fine to me.
so I have a question. Not sure this, in quotes, fixes this, but it certainly improves the situation. I'm not sure if Gary can add any light to that. Is this a fix? At the end of the day, are we getting clean water at the other end? I think that we worked with, I think that this solution was the best you could do in this situation. And it's certainly a lot better than it was, but maybe to say it doesn't fix it, but to say it improves it, would that be acceptable?
I'd prefer to see language that it addresses the commission's illicit discharge concern. That would clear it up for us, but you're the commission. That's your ultimate call.
All right, we'll keep that in consideration then, so we can move on.
Okay. So then we're ready to vote. Walter,
Please repeat the motion.
The move to close.
Oh, okay. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, so we're closed, so now we need a motion to issue.
Move to issue an amended order of conditions for 87 Walker's Brook Drive.
Seconded?
Chirag Staliker, second.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Chirag Staliker in favor. Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay,
Did we have any conditions, or are we all set on conditions?
Just that we'll receive notification from MassDOT when to the applicant about.
either way, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vote on the
Thank you
issue.
all.
Oh,
No,
No,
I
we did.
moved to issue and we
I
voted.
thought you moved to close.
we did the
And then I moved to issue. We voted on two things.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
And good to remind me, because once I forgot. So
Okay,
All right, we're all set. I'll issue that. Or I'll send that out within the next week.
all right.
All right, Peter, Gary, thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
So then moving on to Zero Cedar Swamp. Is anybody out there for that one?
Yeah, I'm letting Shona in right now. And Andrew's here. I saw him show up also. Okay, you should be good. Good to go here.
Okay, Andrew, Shona, welcome. I'm not sure which one of you wants to give us an update of the status. And if you do, please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. I'd be happy to give that status update. My name is Shona Patasteas. I'm with BSC Group. I'm an applicant's representative for the project. Since the last hearing in end of October, there haven't been any changes to the project itself. We were working with the commission on a draft order of conditions, particular conditions that would apply to the project. We've been coordinating, Andrew and I have been coordinating directly with Chuck. We received a draft order of conditions yesterday, and we're able to send back, a few different kind of comments and thoughts on the order of conditions a little bit prior to this meeting at about 4 o'clock or so. So we're hoping to engage in discussion and work through some of the conditions.
Okay, is there anything else?
That's all.
Okay. Well, I will have to say that obviously we did get the response from you folks late, kind of last minute. So most of the commission hasn't even seen the comments yet. I saw them briefly while I ate tonight. So I think it wouldn't make any sense to move forward and get into discussion on the comments in general. Does that make sense to you?
I'd like to at least look at the special conditions personally. I mean, based on the length of time we've been before the commission and our schedule, I mean, I kind of would at least like to look at the special conditions.
I don't think that really helps. I mean, at least in my experience, going over things like this in a committee setting is not very efficient, not very productive. I would rather give all of us time to actually look at these things, to have our questions prepared, our comments prepared, our approach prepared. So talking about it in real time, we would hear your impression on it, but then we'd say, okay, fine, we still have to go away and think about it ourselves, right?
Sure. Yeah. A little more time seems reasonable. 24 hours seems like, a little bit short for everyone, right? So if we could set a date by which we could get maybe comments back from you ahead of the next meeting, because I think there's only one hearing in December, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess I'm kind of at a point with our schedule where we're kind of needing to have a determination at this point. Is there a date we could see comments from you based on our draft back?
Hang on 1 second. Chuck wants to say something.
No, it's not now. So
Seems to me like we could certainly all have a chance to read it within a week and give comments to Chuck, and then Chuck could send those
Does
comments.
that make sense to you too? You can do it in a week?
Walter,
so yeah, after Walter says yes,
He did.
why don't we make it so we can, so I read through this, and I think that, it generally seems to reflect what the commission wanted in a lot of cases, and there may be just a few that need to be discussed. So I think that the commission could look through it and get it back to the applicant to me, Thursday morning, and I could send it to the applicant, or maybe Wednesday and send it to the applicant on Thursday. So by the end of next week, they have it.
Right. So from my quick read of it, I agree with Chuck's general premise that a lot of it looks perfectly acceptable as what we were looking for, but I see it as 3 general categories. I think there's going to be the majority of the comments that we agree with and say agreed as written. There will be some where we have disagreement, and we want to push back on those and to change that perhaps. And there's some where it's just not clear to us, and that's going to need some further discussion. So 3 buckets: accept, not accept, and discussion. Does that make sense?
Okay, with that in mind, would the commission entertain another meeting in November specifically about the draft? I guess again, back to a comment, my concern is, right, there's not another meeting that the commission has in November. So we'd get your comments back, which I appreciate, but then we'd be all the way out to December 11th. And that's the only hearing in December. So then based on what you're saying with comments back and then revisions again, that goes into January, if I'm not mistaken. And then pending an approval at that time, we have 10-day appeal, 21-day issuance. Like, it's getting to a point where we can actually execute the project under conditions we have for the project.
I understand. So let's first explore the idea of not having a second meeting in November. If we were to provide comments to Chuck and he passed them off to you, say a week, which is what Martha had suggested, then that would give you time to look at our response and to do the same thing, basically the same triage, agree with some number of ones that we sent back to you, and then to have a relatively small number of ones to discuss. Right?
For the December 11th meeting.
Right. And at that point, I think we could go through that targeted small list of topics. Go ahead, Chuck.
I was just gonna jump ahead again. You already told me about that.
That's what he does.
Yeah. I don't see why, Andrew, why were we not closing and issuing on the 11th, and then you would have your 10-day approval? That's December 11th.
Yep. Yeah. So based on what Brian had said, 3 buckets: one, conditions you can agree upon, conditions that we need to discuss, and ones that you want to maybe further change, right? If on the 11th, the ones that you aren't happy with and they want to change, we can't agree upon, then that would be concerning to me. And then you couldn't close on it. So then we're pushed out to the January date. That's my point.
Are you able to make those decisions at the meeting, or if we sent those to you? So it sounds like you would get that information of the ones we don't agree upon by next week, and the next week, and then you could, I don't see why I couldn't like go back and forth with you and try to make that happen. And so we would be pretty much all set by the 11th.
The goal would be to get the 11th with a document that's essentially agreed on, and we would do maybe some final comments and questions, and then end it.
Yeah. So one of the things that,
yep. And on the 11th, I would be requesting a vote, so I can appreciate that. That sounds like a plan to me.
sure. Just to let you know, one of the things that I had a question about, and I'm going to let the commission do it now. I'm not looking for an answer, but it was 43, 44, and 45. It looks like there was a lot of that information taken out of that section. And I was wondering if I noted the vegetation management plan incorrectly. And so that would have been something I asked myself. So, you know, in order to get that right, I would have had to reach back out to Shona and to find out, you know, how to change that around to make the corrections. So that was one of the things that would be hard to do during tonight's meeting.
I agree. So is that a reasonable goal for us to get comments to you through Chuck in a week, plus or minus a bit? And then you would go back and forth with Chuck before the next meeting, so we get to the next meeting with a document that is, for most intents and purposes, already there. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Going into Thanksgiving time off, not having to, you know, continue to think about it. That would be great. That would be ideal. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, it's like avoiding studying for exams over the break.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, then you would agree to a continuance until December 11th?
Yes, I would.
Okay, can we have a motion to that effect?
I'll move to continue this hearing to December 11th.
I second that.
Mr. Talbot's in favor?
York Stilicker in favor. Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay,
So yeah, just to add some color to this, we received this afternoon at 4:30 a marked up document of the order of conditions that I sent out. And so there's not many items. It was 24 or 5 pages of that special conditions. I would say there's only 20 items that they mentioned, maybe a little bit more or less, but a lot of them seem to be okay. Everyone should be able to make comments. We've done that in many different ways, but I'll reach back out to you individually. Don't send me them with everyone else. These are individual.
not contaminant.
Actually, don't see the email. Maybe I was CC'd.
I did not. I only sent it to the chair and asked his advice based on the time that we received them. So the rest of the commission did not
But you will.
those comments.
Okay, so we make our comments directly to you. And the sooner the better, but no later than a week from today. And then you can get the comments compiled and back to them.
Yeah, and then the following week, with your permission, I'll be able to just iron out any of the problems that came up.
That's the,
And, yeah,
that's the goal.
we should be all set for the 11th. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, Andrew and Shona,
thank you.
thanks for the help. And we'll talk to you at least by next Thursday, and then the following week, probably a lot more. Okay?
Okay, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Yep.
Okay, next. Bear Meadow Conservation Area. This is actually submitted by Chuck, so
That's right. I was like, what is this? Okay, hold on a second. Let me get this straight. And don't forget to ask for review. Okay. I don't know if this is the best plan, but this is. I'm gonna have to do triple duties here. I'm gonna stand over here. Good evening, Commission. This is Chuck Tirone, Conservation Administrator. This plan shows some trees. We're trying to do some improvements at Bear Meadow. And this location is off Pearl Street, off of 721 Pearl Street. And at 721 Pearl Street, there's only one small section that has some trees in it that will be coming down with the larger improvements that are going to be presented later on this month. So we needed to get a permit to take these trees down within the conservation's jurisdiction. That red line on the plan is the 100-foot buffer zone. But we didn't want to, or I didn't want to present a plan or do some work that was marginal. So it was best to come into the commission and get your approval. The blue represents the dead trees, and the red represents living trees that are basically on the 100-foot buffer zone line. They're all entangled, or pretty much entangled, in Oriental bittersweet. And for the most part, if that isn't taken care of with our project of opening up this area, then those trees would die anyways from being strangled out. So it's quite simply just asking for permission to go within this area and remove those trees. If I could read that from here, I would, but let me see what it says. The red trees are the living trees, the blue trees are the dead trees. There's
seven living, 4 dead.
and 4 dead. The entrance is from 721 Pearl Street. The access to remove those trees would be through that entrance, through that gate, and reaching in from outside the buffer to manage the trees. All the trees will be dropped in the direction of the field and not in the direction of the wetland. So it's a pretty small project. It's a project that's on the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone. You know, it's good for the commission to give comments on that. So I'll just stop right now and hear what the commission has to say about this project.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
You said that the trees have to be removed for another project, like they're going to be removed from.
Larger projects, yeah. So in the Bear Meadow stewardship plan, opening up the meadow was something that was mentioned. And the commission has received a grant to do that work. So we'll be presenting that plan to open up the meadow and create more grassland for the nesting woodcock and to increase that woodcock habitat. So the grassland is being, trees are growing into the grassland, and each year it's smaller and smaller. So around the edges, they're just going to remove some trees that have grown in, and then at that point, the commission and the conservation office could maintain the field in that general area.
So the distinction is that the other trees that are going to be presented later, they're on conservation lands. So we do care from that perspective. These are in the wetland jurisdiction. So that's why it's before the commission now.
Yeah. Yeah, this was checked out, and there's no other trees that are coming down that are even close. I think the next group of trees are over 200 feet away. So.
Will you be doing this work when the ground is frozen?
So we'd like to have the same condition as the town forest got, so either dry or frozen, but during the time frame that the Natural Heritage gave to the town forest committee also. So we would be working basically up until May, and no, wait a minute.
Oh, that was March.
February 28th?
Yeah, February 28th, and then anytime after May. So that's what we're looking for, but the goal is to get it done during the frozen season, if there's one, and to stay out of the mud and to stay out of tearing up the ground.
And the advantage of that also is that would make it winter work, which may help in availability and cost with whoever does the work. So who is going to do the work? Are you thinking this is?
So this is part of the larger project. I'm just looking for an approval for this part of the project. Like I said, no other portion is within the buffer zone, but this is part of the bid package to get the rest of the work done.
If somebody sees Walter's hand up, make sure you tell me. But Tony, you.
I have a few questions. Did you mention how the trees are going to be removed?
Yeah, so we don't want to, so they're going to be loaded onto a truck, and they're going to be either with a crane or with a small piece of equipment dropped to the ground. So I'm going to call it a fella buncher, but I've heard it called different names. So they'll go in, cut it at the base, hold it as it falls, and it falls quite slowly to the ground.
How large are these trees?
The trees in this area, some of them are 20-inch DBH, 24-inch DBH, but some of them is really small, like 10 and 6. So there was a variety of trees. The ones that are dead are the smaller ones. They, and as a matter of fact, there's some of the dead trees are ash. So they had no chance of living anyways.
And what's the access point?
The access point, hold on a second, I'll switch hats for a second. It's right there off Pearl Street. And so there's a Pearl Street parking lot, it's paved. There's probably 11 cars that could park there. So the entrance would be right in that area. We've called out that area as the staging area. It'll be blocked off for the public while this work is going on. And so I'm not saying they're not going to process back out on the parking lot. They'll process throughout the meadow, but whenever they're staging and their equipment and all that.
All right. I don't know if it was February to May was the no work period the forest got.
I can look it up.
Okay.
If you want to give me a second, keep talking.
In the town forest rule, they could do it up to February 28th.
Yep.
So they can work all of February.
They can work all of February, and then they're off, and then they resume in May.
I can't confirm that,
Okay.
but they're definitely off in March.
All right, because woodcock nesting usually goes through June, or it can go through June. So if we're there to improve woodcock habitat,
It'd be good not
woodcock habitat would be preferential to not disturb them.
That makes sense to me.
especially during the dating process. Any other questions while Chuck's looking that up?
Want me to ask the question about the invasive management plan, or will you ask that? That's your favorite.
Well, no, I guess.
Maybe I'll ask invasive related question. And so, are those trees that are dying because of the invasives, and does that have anything to do with these trees actually coming down? Like, I mean, it seems to me that they're going to come down anyway. So irrespective of the invasives.
Yeah, the ash trees will come down anyways. They're just dying. They're standing dead right now, and they will fall down. I mean, they could be habitat trees, but you know, this plan is creating habitat for specific species. So we're just trying to just increase the possibility of this habitat, you know, as we read about in our evaluation from Mass Audubon.
Martha?
So if we're trying to increase the meadow habitat, we don't want to leave 10-foot snags when we take these trees down. We want to take them down to ground in order to have the grassland expand. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, I can't find that, so I'll have to get that. It's in the document. It's in the Natural Heritage document. If you guys want to look it up, we've had. I don't understand why the town forest plan is not up there still.
Yeah.
All the other ones that are up there.
But
But it makes sense to make
Modify it.
sure that the no cutting zone time goes at least through June because of the woodcocks here, which is.
So this is just a formality here at this meadow. It's not protected land for species or estimated habitat for rare wildlife. It's none of that, but we're going to take the same precautions because way off 300 or 400 feet away, there's a vernal pool and it makes sense. So we're under no obligation because it's not reviewable by MISA. So the timeframes that the commission decides upon is acceptable. It's what's in the RFP for the cutting, and
As long as there's the overarching conditions of frozen or dry,
yeah.
then that's going to be self-limiting anyway to some extent.
And
Yes.
we could phrase the condition to be no cutting between February 28th and June 30th, or whatever the time frame is in the town forest, whichever is larger.
I think you could just recognize the town forest document from Natural Heritage and just use that.
Yeah, just reference it.
Yeah, but what if it allows you to start cutting again in May? We don't want to do that because of the woodcocks.
So it does allow you to do that, but just like we did with the town forest, you're only allowing it because of the conditions to be at, during the winter time. So
Okay.
you could put a restriction on another condition saying this has to happen in the winter. I'm not sure why it has to happen during the winter time if the dry conditions out there also, if we stay outside of vernal pool season and woodcock habitat season. So
Yeah, I think that's all we're saying is that using Tony's information about the end of the woodcock season, I think we should just say town forest as a starting point with the modification of making it a little bit later for the woodcock.
sure. So you can make a condition that Tony will provide that information and put it into the order of conditions.
Put it on his shoulders.
And our goal is to get this work done before February 28th, this winter, correct? if
Yeah,
possible?
so the way the bid went out is we're hoping that one company will do both Town Forest and Bear Meadow.
Oh,
So we have a site visit on the same day, an hour apart from each other. And yeah, we're trying to make the most of the economy of scale that can be gained from two thinning projects in the same town.
Any other questions here? Walter, do you have any questions? What was that?
No.
No, okay. Chuck, well, you can't ask yourself.
I want to see if anyone has any comments. We sent out an abutters notification for this project.
I wanted to ask you first, but of course you
Do I have any questions?
gotta recuse yourself though. So is there anybody from the public who wants to ask questions or make comments? Can you see, Chuck, if they're online? Put the other hat on.
The other hat on. I'm gonna stop the share. Stop the share. I'll go back, but if anyone here has a comment or a question, please use the reaction button and use the raise hand function, and we'll see you and you can ask your question. Seeing none.
Okay, so this is an RDA, so we have limited ability to attach conditions. We know the one condition already, which is the end date. Is there anything else that we should consider?
are there other trees nearby that we need to protect in any way? Wrap the trunks so they don't get scraped or anything like that as the equipment goes?
Not in
past?
this area. Like I said, they're all dead or going to be removed, and we're reaching in from an open meadow.
Okay. Good.
But it sounds beautiful, but open meadow, but it's basically thorny brush.
Very good. I think one maybe is worth wrapping is by the entrance. It's the one where there's some dead wood we're talking about removing, but that's a fairly narrow entrance.
Mhm.
So putting a fence or something around that to protect it would make sense, I think.
We'll accept that as a condition.
Yeah.
No problem.
Anything else?
The usual language about filling any ruts that occur from the river.
Equipment, yeah.
equipment, yeah.
So I was thinking we would use the exact same language from the town forest. I mean, it's the same project. We're
Yeah.
worried about the same things. So basically, that language would be put into this determination.
So that actually prompts a question, which is with the town forest, while there's the same condition about the contractor fixing any issues they cause, in the end, their backstop was DPW. Do you think we have that as a backstop here if it's needed?
I haven't reached out to DPW to ask them if they would clean this up.
If
Any
needed.
problems, but we do have a backstop in a way. So part of the improvements that we want to do to the meadow is there's paths that bisect the meadow, creating smaller pieces of meadow and less habitat. And one of the overall goals is to create a perimeter path out of the wood chips to, to have people enter, walk around the edge, and then get to their trail that way. So all the ruts presumably will be by the edge. And so all that we covered up by
Wood chip.
wood chips.
Yeah.
But it's also in the RFP, if I'm using the right terminology, it's also in our bid documents that they have to backblade and, cover up the ruts.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? And if not, this is an RDA, so I need a motion for,
If anyone would like to see the bid, it's on the town website. So there's a bid for town forest, and there's a bid for this Bear Meadow area. You just have to put in some information and you can see what we both bid on. So they're very similar. But I think just trees and just, I don't know if you can believe it, there's more hardwood over here at this site, and there's more pine and conifer at the other spot.
Okay, so we have a motion then, please.
I move that we issue a negative determination for this project.
Saying,
Bill said.
yeah.
Walter, you gonna vote?
I didn't hear a second, excuse me. Walter Talbot's in favor?
Jacques Delaker in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, thank you. You may take a seat. Okay. Oh, next topic is 57 Longwood Road.
Do you want me to put the plan on the screen? 'Cause we don't usually use those anymore. Is that fine with you? Or do you want to do just that? You'd have to bring it up close for the commission, and I don't even know if RCTV can dial in on it anymore.
I would say, your suggestion of putting it up on the screen.
Great, okay.
Okay, so can you come to the podium and introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening, I am Elizabeth Wallace from Hayes Engineering. I am their wetland scientist, representing the applicants. Tonight, we're with you to discuss a addition project at 57 Longwood Road. In the existing condition, there is a house with paved driveway and a number of structures in the backyard. And
Let me just follow you down to the front here.
yeah. And as you can see on the plan, the driveway and a small part of the house is within the 200-foot riverfront area. The riverfront area is actually extending from a perennial stream on the other side of the road behind those houses. So the driveway is within the outer riparian zone. In the proposed condition, the homeowners are going to demolish the existing two-car garage and a part of the existing porch and replace it with a two-story, 840 square foot addition, which will house 3 cars in the basement and living space above. With the addition constructed, there will be a smaller, wider driveway and a new walkway. The porch will be reconfigured to accommodate the new addition. We'll be removing the existing retaining walls and reconfiguring those to fit in with the new driveway. And that's about it. There's about 3,600 square feet of riverfront disturbance, but it's all disturbed by existence of the structures and lawn. There is no new riverfront area being disturbed. It's all existing disturbance. Chuck, do you have the existing plan?
If it was, let's see, what we got down here. Back up on this. Is that helpful? Is that where we want to be?
That is helpful. It shows the proposed two-story addition. We are taking down one tree, it's a cherry tree that's coming down. You can see the X marks the spot there. And there's going to be a new walkway with stairs. This property has quite a bit of topographic slope to this. So the driveway will be sloping towards the roadway. And in the existing conditions, there was a crushed stone strip along the driveway. We will take that out and replace it with an area of crushed stone. In the front corner of the new driveway that will capture some of the runoff. I think that is a good start on this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody in the commission have any questions, comments?
I have a question. Have we confirmed that the Aberjona is meeting the definition of a river or stream under the Wetlands Protection Act? Is it shown as a permanent water body on a USGS map and so forth?
Excellent question. Yes, it is shown as a perennial stream. Believe me, I battled that. I tried to find somewhere where it showed intermittent, but no, it's perennial. It does look like a man-made portion. I can't prove that, but it's right in the back of the backyards of those houses across the street.
Yeah, it is pretty straight right in that area. We did have a study in town years ago, and they call above Summer Street, heading towards the high school, intermittent, and below that Summer Street intersection, perennial. That's an internal study. I don't think DEP has the same opinion, but at least you could argue that above Summer Street.
Good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions, Tony?
No, thank
you. Sharad? Walter, do you have anything?
I do. It seems like you're doing a fair amount of work closer to the stream than the current situation. For example, all the part of the addition that's where there's now a cherry tree. And the driveway is getting a lot closer to the stream. Have you proposed any mitigation for the impervious surface that you're adding to this project?
Well, part of the mitigation is the area of crushed stone. We have not proposed any other mitigation. I believe the addition will have drains, gutter and drains going into the ground, but
so that's stormwater management.
that is stormwater management.
Right, but I'm pretty sure we've been told on other projects that you can't get closer to a river without restoration or mitigation for the work that's coming closer to the river. So if you were to do this in the backyard, I'd have no issue with that. But the fact that you're on the river side of the house, we had a previous project where they wanted to put crushed stone along the driveway, and that crushed stone got them closer to the river, and they had to do some mitigation for that.
Well, it's, I'm sorry, let me say that it's all to start. I mean, there is considerable pavement for the driveway and all, and the disturbance is right up to the roadway. So actually, we're not getting closer. The building is getting closer for sure. And the driveway is wider, but no, we're not closer. All of the existing disturbance is right up to the edge of the street.
So what the disturbance would be the driveway, it goes to the street.
Correct.
What else is? So I think everything's kind of heading in that front facing position. And the driveway might be the leading disturbance. So at 555 West Street, the driveway was, I can't remember that one, but I know that they were going further. The driveway was getting closer, and I think it was beyond other things that were there,
Okay.
that same line, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, in that case, you're right. The crushed stone was encroaching on what had been lawn closer than because it was going along the side of the driveway. So are you saying the edge of the street where the driveway meets the street is the leading edge of the project? And the fact that they are covering up a bunch of lawn with driveway does not count as getting closer because the leading edge of the driveway at the street is the closest reach.
I'm saying you asked a great question, and there's a lot in the Wetlands Protection Act that's up to the commission's comfort level. But if I were looking at this, I would think since it's all heading in the same direction, the leading edge of impervious disturbance would probably be the driveway.
Mhm.
And if it was headed off catty corner in that direction and they're building over there, the stream's over there, well, yeah, they're adding kind of like screen lower left. But the stream's directly across the street behind another house. But
The proposed two-story addition is getting a lot closer to the stream because the driveway is getting shorter. So the building is getting closer to the stream.
but it's impervious, so
So
the addition or the driveway, the driveway exists, the addition's behind the driveway,
Yep.
behind that disturbance. I mean, I think whether we agree or not on whether lawn is part of this conversation because it's pervious. And, you know, that could be up to your discretion. But I think the other question would be, for mitigation, would be what's the amount within the 200 foot? So we're in the outer 200. What is the amount of impervious surface square foot? And are you adding to that? So if it's 10 and this is 9, well, then you're not adding to it. But if it's 10 and with this new addition, the square footage comes up to 20, then you are adding it, and you might be into that area where you have to look for F and G.
It seems to me there's a lot more impervious surface here than we saw in the ground when we
Right.
went on our site visit, because the area with the cherry tree is now completely surrounded by building. And the area behind the stone retaining wall is now going to be extra driveway. And the area that's going to be the walkway with the steps, proposed walkway, proposed porch with roof overlaying steps, that's all grass. So there's a lot of lawn, which I admit is disturbed area, but it's lawn, not pavement. And I did notice on the right-hand side of the building, going back up the slope towards the backyard, they used a very permeable paver system where the grass is growing up through the holes in the, basically cinder blocks put in sideways, so there's lots of holes. Does that make sense? Did you
Yes.
see that area? Yeah. So, this particular property already has some clearly pervious pavers. I don't know that they'd want to do that same thing in the front yard, but I very much liked seeing that in the side yard. So
So within,
I didn't have time to carefully read through the regs, but my understanding was that if you're moving closer to the river, you need to do mitigation.
So can I interject for 1 second?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, and I agree with the conversation, is all 1058.5.
Okay,
In your description, you were referring to 1058.4. Point 4 is general performance standards. Point 5 is redevelopment. Can you explain why you wrote it against 4 and not 5?
It sounds like I made a typo up there.
Okay, I mean, I just wanted,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's talking about,
Redevelopment, yes.
all right. Okay, fine. And then back to you until it's my turn.
I'm done.
Is anybody else, Tony, you were gonna say?
Yeah, so Martha, I wanted to answer your question, and as the chair alluded to, this is 1058.5, and it's sections D and E that I think you're thinking of, that say proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance of when there's mitigation. And E is the area of that was C. And D is proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside. Is that what I just read?
Yeah,
I think C is the one that has the out on it because it says or 100 feet.
Yes.
So
So C is not close, not located closer to the river than existing conditions are 100 feet. In D, it says that it shall be away from the river.
So in the interest of time, can I interject again?
Yeah.
So in this section, there's 5 whatever conditions. They all must be met.
Must be met.
Or you do mitigation or restoration. There's at least 2, 3 ones that are not met. So by definition, they have to consider mitigation or restoration. So it almost doesn't matter what the exact details of any one of them are in this case, because there's a number of them that are not met. Right? So we should be jumping right to what is the mitigation or restoration that'll be done because these conditions are not met.
So, and then just before we go off on that, I just want to make sure that A is that at a minimum. So the first step is there needs to be improvement over the existing conditions. Have the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests identified in the act. So something has to happen there. And then we're into C and D or F and G, you know? So we have 2 things. We're going to get, this is a single family house, but they're doing infiltration. And so that's an improvement. So maybe that meets A, okay? So now we're down to, all right, but they're not meeting D, which is the existing structure should not be outside the riverfront area or no closer than blah, blah, blah. So now they're into C and D.
They're probably also not meeting the square footage one.
Yeah, the
I'm
10%.
not sure, because you didn't put down the square footage of the riverfront area on the plan, but just eyeballing it, it appears that you're over the 10% threshold. Again, doesn't mean you can't do this. It just means that it throws you into F or G for the restoration or mitigation. So no matter how you cut it, I mean, I think it actually fails A, D, and E, but either way, at least one of them isn't met. So we need to be talking about restoration or mitigation. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't have any thoughts on it right now. I would like to point out that putting the addition on the front side is the only place for the addition. You can't put it on the sides because of the narrowness of the area between the house and the sidelines. In the back, outside the riverfront area, they have various structures already there, so there's not room for the addition.
So if I can jump in, I apologize for being
Yep.
obnoxious, but I agree with you. In fact, you're already seeking a variance already because it's narrow. So I think you need to be looking at the mitigation or restoration clause
Mhm.
and be thinking of doing something somewhere else in the Abidjona River Basin. Because what it says is you can do it essentially on the applicant's property, or you can do it somewhere in the reach of the river. So, you know, and I'm not gonna design this for you, but that's
Absolutely.
something to consider, coming up with a plan that you could then present to us and we could.
I'll certainly go over it with the homeowners and see what they want to do. They don't own any property along the Abidjona.
And you don't have to.
But
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
again, you just read those two sections. It talks about doing things to property that the applicant has no legal rights to, words to that effect. So, you know, there's always something that can be done. The Abidjona runs through much of Reading. There must be something somewhere in Reading where there can be some improvement that would help you with the mitigation approach. In fact, I'm sure if you talk to Chuck, he probably has a ready list of places he'd like something done. So, you know, I mean, I would suggest that. Again, it's up to you folks, but
But not to, they can improve their own property too.
they can if there's space and and it has to be enough mitigation because there's a two to one ratio for mitigation, right? Or is that restoration? I forget. One of them's 2, one of them 3 to 1, restoration or mitigation. But again, just read those two sections, F and G.
So what I'm interested in is just getting an accounting of the impervious area, just to make sure that we are hitting the right notes. So if you could calculate the existing riverfront area, you're not supposed to be over 10%. I just want to kind of get this out there. I'm going to send you what I'm looking for because I've written it up before for other people, and I'll just send that to you. So, but I have to get it into the record. So I'm looking for the existing impervious. I'm looking for the difference and within the riverfront area. So just that area. And then we're going to have to, and the way I see it is if you're over it by a little bit, we need a little mitigation. If you're over it by a lot, we need more. Okay. But there's always something to do. And I think that you already have infiltration happening here. I don't understand the stones. Is that to catch rainwater or sheet flow or something like that?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
in part. I mean, we can certainly add to it if needed.
Sure.
But we'll figure something.
Do you know what?
With the homeowners and figure something out.
So restoration is 1-to-1 because you're restoring, and 2-to-1 because it's less. Mitigation would be 2-to-1. So 2-to-1 on,
And yeah, I knew one of them was 2 to 1.
yeah. So you would, like on that last
Restoration is 1 to 1. Yes.
mitigation, yeah, 2-to-1.
Mitigation 2 to 1.
Yeah, because they're going to use things like trees spread apart. We're putting in trees, but we're not putting in a whole habitat. You know, we don't have herbaceous and shrub layer and tree layer. So we're not doing that. We're just doing a little bit. So they're not restoring it to its original conditions. I don't know if you're going there with this. Another
No,
thing would be
I'm trying.
pavers.
I'm not trying to
another thing would
design
be
it for that.
infiltration. Those are the things that are mitigation. It's not always just go and build a, you know, like the other one, go and build a boardwalk to cross the Abidjona River somewhere.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that. No.
That was a good idea, yeah. But
I do actually a couple of questions, not to do with the 5 versus 4. You guys have any questions first? So my first one is, are the homeowners going to be in the house when you're doing the work?
I assume so.
So then where would the,
Answer to that.
so you have erosion control across the bottom of the property, across the driveway, where they're going to keep their cars? Are they planning on driving over the erosion control at night when they're parking?
No, I'm sure that they'll take the silt roll and, put it over to the side.
So that's a
Yeah.
concern to me because obviously there may be sediment that's already been trapped along the base of it. It may be raining when they want to come in and out. So that's a consideration I think you need to rethink. I'm not sure it's a good idea to have the erosion control be a swinging gate. You also have the issue about, do they remember to close it? Did they close it all the way and properly? Because theoretically, there's going to be a meeting, a checkpoint where we look at things like the erosion control before the work actually starts. So even if we went and we said it's fine, it doesn't mean if Mr. and Mrs. move it aside and then put it back, there's going to be just as effective wherever they put it, right?
Correct.
So I would say that's a big concern in my mind.
There's no, I mean, it's pavement to pavement and no real way to put any erosion control there. I'm sure until the snow flies, they can park on the street. The other alternative is to put the erosion control along the curb on the other side of the street, but I don't think the neighbors would like that. It was difficult. I tried to figure out what to do with the silt roll and I figured, you know, just present it this way. And see what else we can come up with.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to redesign here on the fly. I don't have an obvious solution myself. It may be that they have to ask their neighbors that they can park in somebody else's driveway for a while. I mean, how long do you expect this project to take?
I don't really know.
Yeah, it makes two of us.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if that's even possible. I know the neighborhood somewhat. But anyway, that's my concern above and beyond the 4 versus 5. Any other questions from the commission? Any other questions from Chuck?
No, I'll just recap and send you these questions. We'll go over some mitigation issues and erosion control issues.
Any comments from the public or questions?
Use the reactions button, raise hand function, and we'll see you, or you could get our attention that way. I don't think you could turn your video on at this point because we have that locked because of Zoom bombing.
I'm also looking when we're thinking about logistics of the construction. You talked about the silt sock, but where are the debris from tearing down the old garage gonna go? And where are the stockpiled new materials to build the addition gonna go? And is there going to be any soil stockpiled on the property that will, say, backfill around the foundation after it gets dug?
All very good questions. I am thinking that some of the stockpiling could be on a little strip of pavement right in front of the property.
So down where the trash cans were?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking some of the stockpiling could be there. Some of the stockpiling could be up on the grassed area that is not being disturbed too much.
I would suggest that in thinking about putting it down where the trash cans were, you need to think through if that's okay with the town to have that material that close to the road. It's not a very wide road, so.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Do you know how long the driveway would take to expand it? Is that like bind a course down, like take off the, I don't know how you do it, but bind a course kind of dry and tight in one day? Because if that could happen, if you could find out about that, maybe you could run the erosion control up the sides after that initially happens. I don't know when they're gonna do this. Do they do they're probably gonna do the driveway first, because no one wants trucks and equipment driving over their new driveway, so it seems like it would be last. But maybe the binder course could go on, or,
I imagine the binder course will go on first, so they can get their vehicles in there.
yeah.
So another consideration, going back to the thought about the erosion control being at the bottom, where you put the materials are going to be important, because if it's above the erosion control, somehow the trucks are going to have to get through there. So you have the same issue about how to get through without releasing things you don't want released. So you have some things to think about. All right, so any other, we did the other questions here. We did questions from the public. So at this point, it looks like we have to continue. You okay with that?
Let's get a list of wants for the applicants. So understand the driveway entrance,
Understand mitigation.
stockpile area, construction entrance, erosion control.
If they're having a dumpster on the property, where are they gonna have the dumpster?
Is this the one where you said you're going to have a truck and put it right into the truck?
I suggested that could happen.
Okay, good. That was in the narrative.
Yes.
Which is what made me think about how do you get the truck somewhere with that erosion control and the like. A lot of stuff comes back to the erosion control.
But that narrative also gave the option of a dumpster, not just a truck.
Yes, it did.
So if it's gonna be a dumpster, where's that gonna be?
Yeah.
If it's gonna be a truck, where's the truck gonna park?
Question either way.
It sounds like there's like some sort of sequencing that needs to happen. You know, I would try to reroute the erosion control, use the driveway as your staging area until you can't do it anymore. So just modify the plan to show the erosion control going up one side.
For that matter, maybe the erosion control can be a little bit higher, closer to the house, and you can put some cars down at the bottom. But I'm gonna stop thinking about it. That's your issue.
So I have those things, and then, there we go. And then provide a plan that quantifies and the proposed degraded area. I'll send this to you in square footage and percentage in the riverfront. So we can get an understanding of what the increase is, if there's any, based on the 10% that you're allowed. And at 10% within the riverfront, we've gone through this with DEP. It includes everything that exists now. So if you're over 10% now, you have to mitigate for the difference. If you're under 10%, you can go up to the 10%, but anything over it, you have to mitigate for that difference. So that's what we're looking for. But those like chart or a table wasn't provided. So we would like to see that. That's kind of standard for this commission. It's easy just to kind of roll with that.
On page 2 of the narrative, it says approximately 3,656 square feet will be altered. And I assume that's all within the 200. So, but.
Is
that-
actually in the outer 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We're ignoring anything that is the existing house, the existing swimming pool, et cetera, because that's beyond the 200. So we're only asking about the section between the street and the 200-foot line. So that's where the 10% is counted, right?
Well, it includes the driveway, right? Yeah. So all impervious area within that.
Well, which is why I said earlier, they're just eyeballing it. I think you have to be over, because 3,600 square feet of addition, that implies, 10%. That means 36,000. And I don't think you have 36,000 square feet in the riverfront area. So just from the back of the envelope, it seems like you're over the 10%. So once again, it's going to push you into the
So
mitigation.
the key is with this is, it probably would be a smarter idea to reduce the size of the driveway, but what's underneath the addition. So all that gets minused out, not actually gets minused out, but in a way, you figure out how much you're over it now, and you don't have to mitigate that because it's kind of grandfathered. It's what you're going on new grass for, or any pervious surface being covered up by impervious surface. That's what we want to know. And then with that, where I'm trying to get at is we would like to understand if that's a large number, then it would be a large amount of restoration or mitigation that would need to happen. Does the commission need a alternatives analysis, or are you satisfied that this is the only place where this addition can go? I think that would, yeah.
There's already an alternatives analysis.
There is one. Okay, I saw Tony shaking his head. So we're good with that. That doesn't have to be discussed anymore.
No, I think we beat this to death.
You sure?
You sure? I think it's time to move on.
Should we move to continue?
I think we should. Somebody will do a motion.
Request. Ask.
I did.
Oh, she said, yep.
Oh, I didn't answer, but yes, please do.
I move to continue the application NOI for 57 Longwood Road to the next meeting, December 11th.
I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor?
Chirag Stalaker in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next. 62 Scotland Road. Public hearing on RDA. Is anybody here for that application?
I'm gonna assume you're talking to me.
As a starting point.
Sullivan is here, and
We've lost the projector.
I know, I think I noticed that, and I'm seeing if it's gonna start up again.
On your screen, can you still see the people who are in the Zoom call?
I can, yeah.
Barely. There they are.
Walter looks concerned, so I think that he doesn't know what's going on. Let me see if we can get this screen. Oh, here it comes back. We should be fine in a second.
I can hear you.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Okay, Jack, are you here? Did I give you, did I get you in? Hold on a second, Jack. All right, so Jack has permissions to turn his screen on. Christine also has a hand raised, has permission to turn her screen and video on, and ready to go. I think that's all we have. Is anyone else, Jack, here for this?
Chuck, Kristen, Dorsey?
Yep, Kristen's on.
Yep,
Oh, she has her
Kristen and
hand.
Brad.
and Brad. Okay, there they are.
Okay, so which one of you wants to tell us about your project? Please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. For the record, my name is Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group, and I'm on tonight with the owners, Brad and Kristen Doherty of 62 Scotland Road. They're proposing to construct an in-ground pool and a bluestone patio to the rear of their existing dwelling. Norse Environmental Services had gone out, delineated the BVW. There's a drainage ditch that goes through a 12-inch drain on the pipe on the property. There's no evidence of a drain easement associated with that pipe, but there is a drainage outfall there through the ditch, and there's BVW associated with that ditch. The nearest point of the patio construction for the pool is 74 feet from the wetlands. I do show a 12-inch diameter mulch sock that will line the construction access to the pool area and the patio area. They do have an existing deck and patio off the rear of their house. They're proposing some stepping stones to get to the new pool patio in the in-ground pool. Presently, the entire backyard is surrounded with fencing, so we don't have to worry about installing fencing for this pool project. The fencing complies with the building code requirements for the fence regulations. There's only very limited site grading changes for the transitional grading for the pool and patio construction. There's no trees to be cut as part of this project. Since, as I stated, the patio is 74 feet away, I looked at this as an RDA project and not a notice of intent, especially with the limited site grading and no tree removal. I do show where the proposed pool mechanicals will be. They'll be tucked in at the rear of the existing house. And there is an existing play structure that they're going to look to relocate. They haven't determined yet where that will be relocated, but I did put a note that it would have to be outside the 35-foot no structure zone, and the owners are aware of that. They just haven't figured out yet where they would like to put that in the yard. I know Chuck had been out to the site because Norse Environmental had some questions on the delineation. I know Chuck took a look at it. I'm not sure if the commission has looked at this site or not, but I think at this point, I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Tony?
From the plans, it looks like the proposed in-ground pool will be saltwater. I'm just curious, what are the chlorination requirements of that, and how is the pool going to be dewatered for the winter?
Brad, would you know how they're going to maintain that? Or do they have to backwash or do anything for the system?
Do you know?
I believe the water stays in the pool, so we're working with environmental pools. So there's no chlorine because it is salt water. And I believe from other friends that the pool is filled throughout the year. And then we will have an automatic cover that closes in a winter cover.
Yeah, I don't really know the
Yeah.
answer to the question.
But with environmental pools is the company that we're using.
Because there are discussions in the Wetland Protection Act about discharging pool water, particularly chlorinated.
Right.
Have to go back and see if there's anything for salt water, but we'd want to make sure that a large amount of volume of saltwater discharge isn't going to adversely affect a freshwater wetland if it were to be discharged to the land surface.
Do you have anything else?
In some of those cases, I have put in like a bed of crushed stone, like an area so that if they did have to draw down the pool, we could do something like that. Just put in an area where the water would go into. It could still be over a grassed area, but we could put stone underneath it so that it encourages the water to infiltrate.
Not convinced though that we'd want to be infiltrating seawater essentially.
Oh, it's worth doing what you said about checking the regulations. I don't remember anything in there about salt water, but I'll look again myself as well. Any other questions? Walter. Walter.
Hi,
Walter?
I have a few questions. One is on the discharge of that pipe on the east side of the property. The source of the water, is that from the street, from the storm drains?
I believe it is.
And where does the water go that's on the downspouts on the side of the house on that corner?
Brad and Kristen, do you
I
do
think
those?
one downspout might, I remember looking at it when we bought the house, so I haven't opened, there's a sewer cover in our yard, which I tried to open recently, but I can't get it open, but I think one downspout in the back left-hand corner of the house drains into that. It drains somewhere underground. I'm assuming it goes into that same drainage ditch. I really don't know for certain though.
Yeah, I noticed also that storm cover, or pardon me, that cover on the north side. And I was curious what that was.
I really don't know. I mean, the prior owners never explained it to us, and we never asked the questions at the time. And I don't really remember 100% what it looked like. I tried pulling it off over the summertime. I couldn't even get it off. It's so jammed on tight. But I do think. I mean, I know that the downspout does go underground, so I'm assuming it goes into that same drainage system.
That I must confess, I did not know much about saltwater pools. So since our visit the other day, I've done a little bit of research, and salt water as a pool is great for the human body. It's much better than chlorine. However, salt water is very, very corrosive to anything to do with metal. And I'm curious to know why we have a mechanical system more than 100 feet away from the pool. Are there any metal pipes or metal ducts that the water is going to be going through? It just seems like a very, very long distance if that's where the pumps and the feeds are.
As far as I know, it's all going to be PVC, but I don't know for certain. The only reason the mechanicals were over there is because that's where the person who did like the landscape design and the pool design thought it was the best spot for them.
It may be the best spot for the electrical feed if that's where your internal panels are. I'm not convinced it's the best spot for the actual pump and feed. But
Yeah, well, ask the pool company.
Yeah, I mean the gas line's right there too, so it just makes connection for that a little easier too. But you know, it's a little outside my wheelhouse. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was a little interesting, I guess, would be on the southwest side, you had compost piles that seemed to be within the 100-foot range.
Where? What side?
Is that like the back? Like the back corner, like the far corner?
Looking at this diagram, the upper left-hand corner.
Oh,
Yeah.
there. Oh, I don't know.
That's from the prior
Yeah.
owner. I mean, I've thrown some random debris back there, like dirt and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff that's back there is from the prior owners.
I can't say we dug into it and evaluated it thoroughly, but it seems like there's some natural materials that should be removed, perhaps.
I don't spend a lot of time back there, but I mean, maybe so.
It looks like a lot of yard waste.
We have landscapers who, don't dump anything back there, so.
Those are the comments that I have.
Okay, thank you. Martha?
How long have you owned this house?
2016, June, so about 8 years.
Years? It's just a thing I noticed and I failed to put it in the report to Chuck. It seems like there's a lot of tree stumps in the backyard. As we walked around, there were trees that clearly had been cut down at some time, but I don't know whether those were when you were there or whether they were the previous owner.
Some of the previous owners, some we took down ourselves because their trees were dead. We've had a couple of trees companies come out and look at a couple of trees we were concerned about, and both tree companies agreed that the trees were dead. And I mean, if you look at the stumps that are out there, the inside of them are all rotted, completely rotted out in the middle. So it was the right decision, in our opinion, to take those down. And then there's one tree that's the stumps not rotted out, but it was actually the tree we were most concerned about based on the fact that it hadn't shown leaves in a couple of years.
Yeah. In general, when you're within 100 feet of the wetland, you're supposed to let Chuck know that you want to take trees down and have them approved by him. So certainly if you're looking at any other trees you're concerned about, you now know how to reach Chuck. So make sure that any future trees you're running by him before you have them taken down. Dead trees you're certainly allowed to take down, but you still have to check with Chuck.
Okay, I didn't know that, but we'll do that in the future.
I guess my question is, Jack Sullivan said that because there are no trees to be cut and no site grading to do, that he thought this was an RDA, but generally we expect swimming pools to be a notice of intent. So I just want to bring that up, whether this really would be more appropriately brought to us as a notice of intent.
And like I said, the real reason was we're 74 feet away with any structures. So we're well outside even 50 feet for your buffer. And I think in the past, I have done some in-grounds when I'm over 50 feet away. I've definitely done above ground pools when I'm over 50 feet away.
In Reading, you can do above ground pools at over 50 feet away for the conservation regulations.
Right, in Reading, an above ground counts as a minor project, in ground does not.
Yeah.
In the state law, it does, but Reading is different. Anything else?
I don't feel like this would be a project that would be hard to approve, but as I said, I would be more comfortable if it was a notice of intent.
Okay, I have a few questions. My first one is, what's the square footage of the new patio going to be?
If you go to your second question, I'll get you an answer to the first question.
My second point relies on the answer to the first point.
Oh, okay. Let me give me 1 second.
Yep. Okay, well, I'll make my point anyway while you're looking. So the reason I was asking is because, again, looking at minor projects in Reading, they'd have to be under 100 square feet. That's why I'm wondering what the square footage of this one's going to be.
Okay, I'll know in 1 second.
Okay. Oh, Jack, I thought you were faster than that. Aren't you an engineer?
Usually I am. It took a while to load.
You're making all
the
engineers look
area,
fast.
the patio area is 420 square.
Okay, so that also is not a minor project, which also makes it more significant. Your construction entrance is on the left-hand side of the house facing it from the street?
420 square feet.
Thank you. The construction entrance is on the left as you're facing it?
Correct.
All right, so that goes in the area where that previously discussed manhole cover is. Any thoughts on concerns about weight and maybe causing some damage to whatever's down under there?
I'd have to see where their gate access is through the fence. We could probably put something around that structure to protect it so no one drives over it.
I mean, the
Okay.
manhole covers to the right of the gate, so it's kind of tucked behind. There's a little 2-foot wall there. It's tucked in over there, so there wouldn't be any trucks driving over that.
Well, I'm not worried about the manhole cover. I'm worried about whatever passage pipe or whatever is underneath it, because I don't know where it goes, it comes from. And so
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about some truck going over it and causing a problem. I suspect it may be kind of old too, which would be more of an issue.
I mean, we've had trucks in the past to do some of the tree work, and there, as far as we know, there hasn't been any issues.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up. Let me see, what else did I have? So those are really the questions I had. The others were answered. So I'm in Martha's camp as well, given it's a in-ground pool and a patio that's larger than 100 square feet. I'm definitely inclined to think NOI versus RDA.
Is there a big difference?
That's a different process, yeah. I mean, it would take more time because you're going to have to submit an NOI form, and then we're going to have a meeting to discuss that.
Isn't all the information
Got the
basically the
plan
same?
Right. Yeah, you already have the plans. You have a lot of the background work, so essentially it's a different process.
It would be the exact same plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in this project, I just look at it like even you can impose some conditions with the RDA, and it's like we said, it's a very limited project. I don't see what a full notice of intent being this far from a wetland, what the difference would be compared to an RDA.
So my thoughts are, I do think there would need to be some conditions having to do with some of the yard waste in the back. There's a pile of dirt in the back that's been there for a while. And so part of my thought is not only is the work itself fairly significant, but attaching many conditions to an RDA just isn't done. And so that's why the overall picture to me feels like we need the framework of an NOI to get where we want to go with this.
Because there's a pile of dirt in the back of my yard. I don't.
No, because it's an in-ground pool with a 424 square foot patio and happens to also have a pile of dirt, but the pile of dirt is not the determining factor. The fact that it's an in-ground pool with a 420 square foot patio is what we're concerned about.
Right, but it's also like Jack said, it's over 75 square linear feet from wetlands, and if you guys lived out here, it's never wet. I'm actually surprised it's even categorized as wetlands. I mean, maybe there's some vegetation in there that qualifies as wetland vegetation, but that is dry 99% of the year unless we have a rainstorm, and then it's wet and then it dries right back out.
Right, but that's not really the point. It is wetland in the area. It is within 100 feet. It is two pieces of work that are above our level of a minor project. And yes, there's a pile of dirt, but there's other things back there too.
Like what?
Addressed. Well, like the yard waste, for example.
Right, but it was pre-existing. Like, what are we supposed to do about that?
It doesn't matter, because if it's on your property, it becomes your responsibility.
All right, then I'll get it out of there. I don't understand why this is gonna get held up.
So let me try to explain the form that you used, hearing the direction that the two chairs are going in. So an RDA is a request for determination. The determination that is made from your checkoff boxes is whether the work is within the buffer zone and can be done without any alteration to the area that's protected under the Wetlands Protection Act. And so if the commission decides that, yes, they have jurisdiction, and also, yes, that there could be some alteration based on what we've discussed about the salt and the maintenance, and we went with this form, there's no checkoff that works. And also, if we just pushed it through with a few conditions, we're essentially saying that the work doesn't rise to the level that it needs a wetland permit in the first place. And that's simply not the case. I mean, a lot of people see this permit as a lesser conservation permit, but it's really a determination to find out whether you need a notice of intent or not. The other thing didn't come up, but I wanted to mention is because you probably have a maintenance plan and the commission would want to memorialize that through recording at the Registry of Deeds. And that can't be done with a request for determination of applicability, which is the result of this form here. And the third thing I'm going to mention, and I mentioned this in my email, is that typically the commission doesn't do this. And if we did, there would be a precedent. So I don't see where you're moving your project above and beyond other people, so they also couldn't have this accommodation. So the commission tries to be very consistent, thank you, very consistent with other residents in town. And I think that I don't remember, you know, usually small additions, even if they have a foundation and they're not a sonotube or a pool, which is just like putting in a foundation, would always have a notice of intent. So that's the best explanation I can give if the commission goes in this direction, but that question hasn't come up now. We have some other questions and it's the entire commission that has to take a vote. So you could continue on, get the information that the commission is asking for and see what direction the commission goes when it's time to make a decision. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I don't think commission members and Chuck, I don't think we were saying this is a minor project, but I also don't think this rises to the level of a notice of intent. If you approve an RDA with an in-ground pool, I just did the as-built today at 15 Carriage Lane. It was an above-ground pool, 24-foot diameter, 35 feet from a wetland. I'm sure there's maintenance requirements, but that was right at the 35-foot no structure line. It got approved. In this case, I just look at this project. They're 74 feet away, no trees to be cut, and minor grade changes. It's besides what we talked about. This sounds like you want some areas cleaned up. I don't see how a notice of intent would do much more than an RDA. There's it's still going to be the same. If we do a full notice of intent, it's going to be the same exact plan that comes to you that gets approved.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it seems very similar, but the consistency and the recording and the and those things are what's different. I think 15 Carriage, I do remember that plan. I think there was a fence that segregated disturbed area or useful area for the family, and area that was just to be left wild. And there was possibly some trees that were going to be planted. And I'm not sure that project had anywhere else to go. Pushing it up or pushing it down doesn't mean that makes it okay for an RDA, but we could look into that and I could add that to the commission's distribution so they could look at 15 Carriage Lane also.
It was above ground and it did not have a 420 square foot patio.
Oh, well, Martha yeah, Jackie, I thought you were talking
That's right.
about.
No, it did not have a patio, but it was also exactly 35 feet from the wetlands. I think there should be some, they're situating this about as far away from the wetland as they can. It has to go in the rear yard. And to make them go through a whole notice of intent where we do that, we're going to have to re-notify abutters. It's more fees. You got to pay the fee to the state for the exact same project. I have some trouble with that. But if that's the direction the commission wants to move in, then we'd have to go in that direction. I just feel it's going to be the exact same plan we see in front of us today. And then it's just making the homeowner go through additional hurdles and additional costs.
Even the example you brought up, Jack, wasn't the same. It's not apples and apples. And
No, but the point being that was approved 35 feet from a wetland, right at and you're right. There weren't other locations to really put it. and they're different projects, but I'm just trying to make the case that the patio is 74 feet away in this case. It's a pretty level lot. We're not on a steep slope. Like if we look at this, it seems like a prime. I don't think it sets precedence for other in-ground pools, because just like we're talking about with Carriage Lane, every site is different. You could look at every single site and say it's a different case. I don't think the commission should feel if they approve this as an RDA, it sets a precedent.
If we were to continue this till December 11th and voted that it was a positive determination on December 11th, and you then had to come back with an NOI, then we'd be into January. If we suggest that you come back with an NOI today, you can come back on December 11th with your NOI and you save a month. And I heard the homeowners were concerned about delaying their project. So I know this is a tough time of year to bring us projects because we only meet once a month in December and November. But the speediest way for you to get your answer, I think, is to come back with an NOI on December 11th.
I mean, that's embedded.
If I can interrupt, Tony actually had something they wanted to say.
Yeah, you mentioned the cost of re-notifying the abutters. What was that cost?
$200 and an hour and a half in the post office.
Plus another hour and a half filling out the forms. I mean, it's.
And all the fees to, like, Jack, we're representing this meeting again. So it's very costly to send out all of those notice of certifications. It took the post office an hour and a half for me to stand there and send it to 35 abutters.
Probably took me over an hour and a half to print everything out, put it in envelopes, fill out the forms. It's not a small task.
It's not easy to send out these notifications.
And as you can see, there's no one, none of my abutters are on the Zoom call. I mean, there's not one. Mr. Model behind me, who has a pool, mind you, in-ground pool, was on it for a little while. He jumped off for whatever reason, but there's no one else that's has any issue with it.
The other question I had, Jack, is if it's the same plan and the same project between an RDA and an NOI, why was the NOI filed initially?
So to get all through this, the applicants knew when it came in, I raised the red flag. I let them know on 10/31 that this is not typically an RDA. Jack felt like, for the reasons he stated tonight, that he'd like to move forward. The legal ad was sent in on, I just lost that. I think it's at 11/4. So a few days later, we kind of proceeded. So before the legal ad was even sent out, and the applicant homeowners were included in that email, because I just wanted to make sure that everything was above board, because this did seem to be something that the commission would pick up on. So
Forgive my ignorance. Is the notice of intent for you guys, or is it for the neighbors?
The point of a notice of intent is it is a more firm document with regulations that you have to follow, and it gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds. A RDA, if we choose a negative RDA, it slides under the radar. And we put some conditions on it, but you don't have to turn in your operation and maintenance plan and,
There's no recourse for the Conservation Commission if things go wrong. Because we've essentially told DEP that this project does not rise to the level of needing a conservation permit, even though it's within the buffer zone or resource area. So for us, it's our necks that are on the line, and that's why that has been drawn with conditions and pools. So it's frustrating. I understand that, and there's a lot of nuance within the Wetlands Protection Act. It's not just a different permit. It's the correct permit. It's a permit that allows the Conservation Commission to put it in the right category to maintain the operation and maintenance plan and to ensure that things are built in the way that they were presented to the Conservation Commission. Our only recourse, if we went through with this project under an RDA, is to send you an enforcement order if things are done wrong. And we always have to worry about Big Brother looking over our shoulder, which is DEP, saying, well, why did you approve the project in the first place?
Well, I mean, we're using a very reputable pool company, you know, it's, you know, I'm not putting pool over my brother, you know, it's.
But
So we understand that, but obviously any work done by humans can have problems. Even a good company occasionally makes a mistake or has an issue, and this would allow us to be involved in the resolution of the issue, whereas an RDA, we're basically saying, we're not involved, have a nice day.
I guess my frustration is it sounds like there was a 0% chance you guys were going to approve an RDA. Instead of just coming out and saying you weren't going to approve an RDA, you kind of just tiptoed around it. And now we're in the situation where we lost a month. We're going to spend hundreds of more dollars. We're going to spend hours of our time to just have the same conversation again. It's. I understand what you guys are trying to do, the right thing, and you guys have a job to do. I get it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's just, it's incredibly frustrating.
We need to follow our regulations. And that's really what it, regardless of what our personal feelings are, we have to follow the regulations. We have wetland bylaws that kick in here. We have state regulations, and we need to follow them.
Right, but the RDA seems like it's checking all the boxes. I mean, Jack's done this for years, and he knows it just as well as anyone. But I don't want to speak for Jack, so.
Okay, so we've gone round and round on this. Do you want to agree to a continuance? Do you want us to go ahead and vote? You know, close and vote?
I mean,
Close and vote.
Jack, I'm thinking close and vote. What do you think? I mean,
Yeah, if we close and vote and if the vote comes out, we need a full notice of intent, then we'll go that route, just hoping it's going to be the same exact thing you have in front of you today.
Okay.
So let's close and vote.
Given that, can I have a motion to close?
Move that we close the application for request for determinant of applicability for 62 Scotland Road.
I'll second that.
Walter Talbot's against.
Against closing? Walter, this
Against.
is the vote to close. You're voting against closing.
Oh, closing, sorry. Walter Talbot's in favor. Thank you.
Chirag Stalekar in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor of closing.
Martha Moore in favor?
Randall in favor of closing. Okay, then can I have a motion about the applicability?
it would be a positive determination if you want to
Right.
ask them to submit a notice of intent.
That's why I wasn't.
It would be a negative determination if you wanted to approve this project as you've reviewed it tonight.
We typically vote for a negative determination. So if we were to vote against a negative
It'd be a positive.
determination, it would be denial essentially of the
Exactly.
request.
You're saying positive, it is in our jurisdiction.
Basically, in positive that it's within the resource area and that it's going to alter it. So we need to, yeah, they said it's within our jurisdiction.
So if we vote for a positive determination, they have to come back with an NOI.
They don't have to come back. They can,
They don't have to do the pool.
but it's not approved
Right.
here.
So, does it matter which way we phrase the motion? Is there?
Just issue a positive determination. And I think that's, you have jurisdiction and that you have a concern about possible alteration of the resource area.
So I'm going to move that we vote for a positive determination of applicability for this project.
Second for that.
I second Chirag Stalekar.
So a positive determination means that we're not in favor of this going forward.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I'm in favor of a positive determination.
Yeah, I'm in favor of a positive.
Thanks for wasting our time. Appreciate it.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And, sorry about confusion and the frustration, but yeah, talk to Jack and reach back out if you need anything. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So next is old new business. Violation notices. The only news there is we got an email from 445 Pearl. Essentially, the homeowner, Michael Rivers, has found some rotted timbers that he has to replace. So he sent pictures of it and he invited us to come out and look at it, which I haven't done yet. But so he's continuing to move forward. He just found a hiccup along the way. Okay. So then discussion items, 0 Annette Lane. We were waiting for some support documents for both the restoration and the tree damage. Chuck, did we get the documentation we're waiting for?
We got documentation from an arborist that's known to be very reputable in this town and other towns. I know that he works with many conservation administrators. That part was taken care of. He's made recommendations to use lac balsam in the tree. He says that the trees aren't suffering any structural damage through that through the damage that was incurred with the moving of all those stones. But I do want to let the commission know that typically when a tree is damaged, it's one tree, 2 at the most. And this was 6 to 7, as he said. I thought it was more than that. And these are all pretty bad
gouges.
Yeah, gouges and damages. I have a picture of one, but I'm sure you saw them on the website. So anyways, that's my report.
What about the other half of it? Did we get anything on the restoration?
My report on the trees. That's my report on the trees.
So what about the restoration?
The restoration, we asked, and I've asked a lot longer than this about having a restoration document outlining the fact that this had happened and the proper procedure by a qualified professional detailing what the steps needed to be taken are to ensure that the lower or the upper wetland area next to the boardwalk would be restored in a correct manner. So I was told more than 3 or 4 times that Lucas Environmental had been out there, the same person that showed up to the meetings, and they would be providing a letter with all that information in it. I have yet to receive that. I have yet to receive any information from the owner. I only talked to the arborist about this project, but it seemed like they were moving forward. These things just don't seem to be coming in. So
that means we need to talk about next steps. Right, next steps. Can we treat them separately, looking at the tree situation from one perspective and the restoration from another perspective? Or do we have to treat the issues there as one issue?
You can ask me. So what do we have out there? We have an enforcement order. You can ask me to update the enforcement order and just separate them in your instructions, and we can do different things for each one.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments, questions on the situation?
Very unfortunate that it happened in the first place.
Okay, but now we're here.
Right.
So my view is that we need to do something to get their attention. In the case of the trees, since we did get a recommendation from Bob Moses, I think we should apply a time period by which the remedy should be effected. So apply the lac balsam in a given time period, and then they would have to monitor it for some period of time to be sure that it actually worked. That was my take on the tree side of things. And I will say, Chuck and I actually put that same material on a tree that was damaged on the path going up to the pavilion at Matera Cabin, and it has worked just fine. It's, if you don't know to look for the spot, it is hard to see where the cut was. So that's my thinking on the trees. And as far as the restoration side of things, I'm inclined to get their attention by giving them a relatively short time period to get our answers, or we would begin a fine process. So, having thrown those things out there, what are your thoughts on either one of those approaches? Don't all speak at once.
So you're looking for a time schedule for planting possible replacements?
No,
Or you're looking,
the recommendation is to repair it, or to put a Band-Aid on the wound, basically. And so this, what I'm thinking there is just to put a time period on them getting that done, and then a time period for how long it has to be monitored to be sure it worked.
Walter's got his hand up.
Walter,
Yeah, what's our empowerment as a commission to do that? Just for information purposes, or do we have any?
those trees were supposed to be protected, and they weren't. A number of them were damaged, and so this is now us taking the next step to remedy the damage.
We can't stop the project or do anything disapproving, right?
I don't know, Chuck. I don't think we can.
It's not like we can say, fix the trees, or you can't proceed.
well, they're operating under an order of conditions, right?
Yeah.
So we can, when it comes time to close the project, we could keep it open until it gets fixed. Doesn't get, their
Well, I don't,
remedies.
so to be honest with you, I think the fix for those trees is going to happen. That's what I'm hearing, but it would be good to have a time frame to say, well, before like December 15th, you know, I'll go out there and check it out. I mean, we can make that the fix. I think that part is all set. As far as the restoration of where the soil, which is kind of like the outer edge of the resource area, because when they took down all the trees, they needed a spot, because I guess they didn't have enough trucks. They needed a spot to put all the wood chips. And so it was piled up like right at the edge of the wetland, and then spilled into the wetlands, and then went down into the wetland. And so all that was cleared out, then raked, then scraped off. And I think the owner did some more work over there. Some things have sprouted up, but it looked horrible at the
So it
start.
was damaged by the wood chips, and then it was damaged further in his remedy, when in fact he had been told not to do it, but to get advice from a wetland scientist as to how to do it. Hence, I think that is a higher burden.
Well, I think it's important to be honest with you, I think it's important to get the evaluation, because for all we know, he could have done exactly the correct thing. Not saying he did, but
Yeah, I'd
no,
like to see
he
that
could have
one.
done that. There could be a seed bank in there, could spring up in the spring. You know, the wetland scientist should be out there I mean, I would certainly say when we did allow some work in a minor plan change, with some sort of like storm drain structure. I mean, I don't think any of that will happen again until we remedy the situation, but maybe you could update the enforcement order and I could send it back out to have the black balsam installed with pictures of each tree sent to the Conservation Commission before December 15th. And you would like to see an evaluation, as far as I know, Lucas Environmental has been up there. That's what I've been told, by the end of the month.
So,
which is a Saturday.
So I'm fine with your thoughts on the trees. I agree. And as Tony pointed out, we do have the ultimate checkpoint when they go for certificate of compliance. We can yay or nay based on the health of those trees, among other things.
If it's the same owner.
Don't ruin my day.
I'm not saying that we still don't have jurisdiction, but it's always harder to.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. But at least the work will have been done, the material will have been applied. We have seen that work in the past, in the recent past. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. I'm still not happy with the rest. I'll get back to you in a second. When you started talking.
I started to talk, but go ahead.
With the restoration side of things, I agree, yes. If they give us the evaluation, that's what we're trying to get. We've heard for a while now that one has been created and we haven't got it. You haven't got an answer from the guy. He's basically ignoring what he was asked to do after he caused that damage. I think we need to get his attention. He's obviously not reacting to the first enforcement order, or has not reacted.
Well, half of it started. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying, you know.
Okay, that is a fact.
I'm just telling you.
You have spoken a fact.
I'm going to suggest that instead of giving them till December 15th, you give them till December 10th, and then we can have a report on it at our December 11th meeting. I would rather have that than wait till January to have a meeting about it.
I think that's a fine idea.
So if they can send you the pictures by December 10th, and then we'll know it's been done in time for our meeting.
If both actions haven't happened by December 10th, is there anything I need to write into the enforcement order?
Yeah, we start finding.
Why not choose December 8th and then we can physically go and look
And
on that
do
Monday?
a site visit on the 9th? Do that.
Fine by me.
December 8th.
Hold on.
Away. So go back to your question. So what do we do if they don't meet these conditions? So we have the option of a fine. What other options do we have? Let it go?
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure that you're not fining because, you know, they're not paying attention. I mean, is this a $300 a day fine based on something that could actually grow in on its own and the other half of the project is happening? I'm not asking you for the number you're going to give on the fine. I'm just saying that $300 a day fine is for like someone who's discharging grease into the wetland or something like at that level.
It's anything that.
No, I know it's anything, but you know, you would.
So we have a situation where they damage trees and have finally given us an evaluation of that. That's good. Now we want them to finish the tree situation. They have not done that officially. We have heard that they had a report produced, created. We haven't seen it. We don't know if it's any good. We don't know if it's going to say, let it go and be back in one growth season or two. We don't know. All we know is we've heard nothing. There's crickets and it's wintertime.
About the one portion. We've heard a lot about the tree portion. Yeah, and as Tony knows, this to be true is that some of these wetland plants and stalks and whatever, they have to overwinter to germinate correctly. So there's a freeze cycle that needs to happen.
I said nothing about They have to have it growing again, or else we have to get them to give us that evaluation we asked for how long ago?
Yeah, no, I understand that, but the next step would be that they would plant, and if it is time this year, they would plant. I mean, that's what I was, are you gonna wait another year to plant?
I think, well, depending what they're gonna plant, lots of options that you want to do in the winter. You can do live staking, you can do, there's other options.
So, but the first step is we gotta see the evaluation.
See the report.
Yeah.
And based on that, then we can figure out the second step.
I'll do that tomorrow. I'll step up my game. I'll reach out to both. I actually have, I've sent the emails. I've only got the arborist to write back. And I think it's because the arborist has been in front of this commission representing other people in town. And so I know him a little bit,
I know him less, but I do know him.
Yeah, I think he's like, well, I'll get back to him. Not going down the ship or whatever. Okay, I have December 8th, Walter, and I have 4 fines. We want the work done on the trees with pictures, and we want the eval prior to the 8th.
So we have time to look at it before our meeting, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to be said on that topic? Good. Okay, Conservation DPW monthly meeting, December 10th.
That's late. Why is it so late?
You sure it's the 10th? Because our meeting is the 11th,
Checking it right now.
and that's the second one.
That's the second Wednesday.
The first one's,
Third. It might be it's probably the,
First Wednesday is the third.
yeah.
yeah, it's the third.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have expected it on the third.
Are you still available?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm dying for you guys to take a day off at some point, just so you can attend this meeting. So you can see what you're missing. Okay. Next one, administrators report. Chuck, do you want to give us some updates?
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Simon's Way, the soil evaluation is moving along. I haven't seen the report. I've asked for it, been assured that I would get it as soon as it comes into the town. Send out an email, but it's better to just keep in touch with the engineering department. They'll let me know when that comes in. There was an email that went past and it said there was nothing found. It seems like it's good, but that's not substantiated, I guess. So the other thing that's happening at Simon's Way, so I'm going to move on. Did you have a question, Tony? You looked at me like, the other thing that's happening at Simon's Way is like there's a skating rink, and in back of the skating rink is kind of a gravelly paved area that's never been paved a second time, so it's mostly gravel. They're going to be using that area for the trash barrel rollout, what they're called, trash barrel totes. And those have to be assembled. And I think they said they can do 1,000 a day. And so this will be set up to assemble those trash barrel totes. That area is not within the conservation's jurisdiction. But as you drive up the road, there is a wetland kind of, it looks straight through the brush and back of the backstop for the ballpark. And so there was no conservation, requirements on that project. So that's the second thing that's happening out there.
What are those totes for?
Trash.
Yeah, then you're all getting a new tote.
It's a 64-gallon barrel instead of our own trash can.
They're designed to be picked up automatically by the trucks.
They've been out on display in the hallway for a year and a half now.
Haven't noticed.
He's just been throwing trash into the as he walks by.
They have a giant sign on.
How convenient.
It's not trash day where I drop it off.
So,
Okay,
no, but that's coming up because there's also a permit coming up at our next meeting to create a storage area, more permanent storage area at the end of Simon's Way. So those are the updates that are happening at did I say the end of Simon's Way? The end of Stroud Ave. So
Is
that's
this
going to be a
all?
more permanent storage area at the end of Stroud Ave.
Storage
So the
slash repair.
assembly is happening on Simon's Way.
Right.
Super temporary, won't, as soon as it's done, everyone moves out.
The storage is on Stroud Ave.
Storage
Permanent
slash repair.
containers within the fenced area next to DPW and water department owned structures with high voltage. That's why it's fenced off. So this is
And
a
you-
fenced off area that was never accessible to the public.
And you'd say containers, you mean something like a thing that would go on a container ship,
Like
A
a
big-
cargo ship, yeah.
a big metal box.
Yeah, and they're gonna alter the area. I mean, kind of jumping in front of it, but they're gonna grade out the area, put down some gravel. They need to run some electricity. There's all, you know, it is close to the resource area, but it's on top of lawn. It's in, you know, the use is going to be seldom from what I heard. They need a certain amount of containers to swap out ones that have broken or they need parts. So they're just going to grab the parts and assemble them. I think the commission would want to know, is there a change in use? Is this a storage area or is this going to turn into a workshop? That would be one thing. Do they intend to increase the area where these containers, there's going to be 3 or 4, is there going to be other containers for,
What's the traffic?
you know, air conditioners or like gummy bears or something like that, whatever they're going to use these containers for. So is this just going to be restricted to 2? So this is coming up in December from the DPW. That whole area, if it's not mowed, is protected through the state. So they're just outside of that area, so it's NISA protected, just like where the brush is. Okay.
Okay, but that's not for tonight. So tonight, you gave us.
So the next thing is
update on
pollinator garden at Birch Meadow. So I had a great day a couple weeks ago. Mike Hannaford and his guys dumped out some soil. At the last minute, we were told that I had found someone with a backhoe that would help me spread out the soil and volunteers come in. But at the last minute, I got an email from the DPW department that said, you need insurance for your operators and people, and you need a hoist license in order for them to use that machine on town land. Well, insurance was easy. That was no brainer. That's next step. The next step ministries insurance. We use that. It's their group, and no one had a hoist license. So we ended up spreading out all this material ourselves. And you know, luckily the piles are placed close together, but it was a little bit of work for a lot less people than I expected to show up. But the people that did show up, and I want to give a big shout out for the Next Step group and the Baptist Church here in town, and Ed Bennett, who has been very helpful on a lot of these projects. They all stuck around. Some of the kids were like 10 years old, 11 years old. They all stuck around. They seemed to have a great time, always very positive. They had an advisor with them, just a young adult advisor who was doing probably most of the work. But it was good, and we got it done. And now there's 4 inches of topsoil on top of the pollinator garden, and Phil Perkins has already planted a bunch of seeds out there that he has found and germinated himself in his own greenhouse. And then through Kathy Kelly of the Trails Committee, I received additional seeds from a resident in Reading, and those have also been incorporated in this area. And it's upland and wetland mix, these seeds. So hopefully next year we're further along on that. So that's all I had about those 2 projects. We had a few, like a couple hours left to kill the day because there was a barbecue at 5 o'clock. No, I didn't go to it. Everyone else did. And we spent those 2 hours weeding over at Imagination Station. So they were all good for that too. And we were pulling up the mugwort and other things that we found. We were cutting the Japanese, the Oriental bittersweet.
Okay, as long as you're talking so much, do you want to talk to us about town meeting?
Says the chair.
Do you want to talk to us about town meeting?
Sure. So town meeting was the other night. We had two articles of interest out there. First off, the transfer, Article 14 from Lot 5, which is 371 Grove Street, as requested by Natural Heritage, specifically Misty Ann Merrill, who I've known since, God, I was in Boxford. And she had a request that the land wasn't developed beyond that, and she wanted it transferred to the Conservation Commission so that it would be protected under Article 97. So without much comment last night, that had happened, and we got that transfer. So now the deed will be put together by town council, and that land will be under our control. The understanding of that land is, general day-to-day stuff. That's going to be all up to the Trails Committee, Town Forest Committee. But if it's a major change they want to do, like a new bench, a new path, something like that, they're going to have to talk to the Conservation Commission. They all agreed to that. Seems fine. They don't have much changes. Town Forest Committee really more or less administrates things and doesn't really get out there like the Trails Committee and does projects.
So if there was ever an interest in planting on the hill beside the stairs, who would be responsible for that?
Well, I think that would be a conservation project, but it would need to go in front of the Trails Committee to let them know what was going on and get their input from it also. And just to make sure they didn't have something that may go up in that area. I think that's an excellent spot for planting. It's been in the works for many years. We have a plan. It's been approved by Natural Heritage. We're just waiting for, and we actually have the money too. So we're just waiting for a volunteer group to say, not only can they plant the material, but they can water it throughout the summer, which is step 2, which kind of killed it on the first go round.
Okay.
Yes, everything will be run past the Town Forest Committee. As anything that would happen, that project will be run past the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I think that point needs to be made more than once to the DPW department.
At one point, you mentioned Trails Committee, and I think you really meant Town Forest Committee.
What was the context?
He did correct himself.
Planting on that hillside, you said we would want to talk to the Trails Committee to make sure they didn't have plans for it.
Yeah, they're not going to have plans for it, but no, it's
You really meant Town Forest?
Town Forest, because it's connected to the Town Forest. In a way, it's an entrance into the Town Forest. They don't own any of the land around it. The Water Department, it's the golf course, and it's an easement, but it's a connection, so it seems to be Town Forest, and we don't want to muddy up the waters.
Yeah, I mean, if they had ideas and they were good, we certainly would support it. So, yeah. If that ever happened.
One speaker at town meeting questioned
The rules.
the rules.
Jen Hillary.
You were watching?
No, she emailed me.
Oh, okay. Because the question was, if we own the entrance to the town forest and conservation makes different rules than the town forest committee, who's determining the rules about the entrance to the town forest? And
I think we're just gonna, well, that's why I spent so much time talking about it. I didn't mention Jen Hillary at the beginning, but there has been a plan. I mean, we go to the town forest meetings.
Yeah.
There's always a representative of conservation there. It doesn't make any sense to change the rules in this one little spot when the rest of it's something different. So it's going to be the town forest rules in the Lot 5 parking lot. We're only talking about major work, or what we're going to call major, which is less than what DPW would call major. So
yeah,
I appreciated Jen Hillary's question. It's those are good things to think about, but we talked about that already several months in advance.
Okay.
Okay. So anything else you want to talk to us about?
Yeah, all the town forest articles were passed. They got $150,000, $50,000 to remove the red pine, $100,000 to do invasive removal. It was supposed to be a substitute motion to spend the money, any overage or any money left over that wasn't spent on the invasive removal or the red pine removal would be spent on planting, but the time didn't allow. So, they did say they were committed to planting and maybe this will happen, but we didn't get a substitute motion and they were supposed to put it in the bid document and somehow they didn't put it in there either. So it always seems to be that thing that Brian always gets kind of miffed about, which is like, how are we going to replant? And they said, there's a seed bank in the ground and our forester says it's going to grow up. Yeah, but the competing plant is buckthorn, which is going to grow 10 times as fast, 10 times as quick, and reproduce 10 times.
It already is in the other areas of a cut.
Yeah.
It's not as if you have to guess.
Yeah.
You have examples.
And as soon as it's shaded again, none of that seed bank is going to remain dormant, which can remain dormant for 15, 20 years, but still, that second pot, $100,000 for invasive removal, that's this year, not when
It's time to move on.
not when the invasives start to grow. So, and the other question was, how often do we have to do invasive or follow this treatment plan? They're just spending $150,000 on this work, and they just said less every year that it comes up.
Okay. Oh, we should move on.
I think it's accurate that it would be less every year.
In the areas where they cleared, but there's more and more areas they haven't touched or even thought about. Invasive removal should be a significant expense again and again and again in order to actually make a dent. Otherwise, all you're doing is a holding action in the areas they've already cleared.
Well, I think that the information we got from the Trails Committee guy, who's the birder, I forgot his name. Dave Williams. I think that speaks volumes for what can happen. And maybe they have to like say, oh, and then get this area here because some buckthorn's grown in, not as much as before. You know, I don't know what's going to happen out there, but it does. Conservation Commission always evaluates and gets reports for 5 years. Okay?
Okay.
Treat for 3, eval for 5.
All right. So moving on.
Unless you want me to talk more about this.
I'm sure you want to, but.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm surprised I got.
So let's talk about minutes for approval. There's a lot of them here built up. We got to catch up as best we can. Did everybody have a chance to review 9/11?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I got some comments sent to me and I've did an update and sent that out. Are there any other comments that we need to put into it? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the minutes for 9/11?
I move that we approve the minutes for 9/11.
I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Tony Rodalakis in favor.
Arthur Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Moving on, 9/25. Has everybody had a chance to review 9/25?
Did get comments from Martha. There was, I think I missed Chuck's name and I also had to add I haven't done that
You
yet.
spelled Chuck's name wrong?
No, I did add it.
Oh, I was going to say that's only fair because I spelled your name.
Yeah, I need to do that and send it out.
Okay.
Yeah, and also we usually put the additional people who are at the
Yes,
meeting
yes.
at the top.
Right.
Yeah.
So any other comments that need to go in? Can we have a motion to approve it as amended?
I move to approve the
9/20.
September 25th minutes as amended.
I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Tony Rodalakis in favor.
Arthur Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Next one, October 9th, 10/9.
Same thing. I need to add those two comments.
So you have some comments to make. Is any, but has everybody had a chance to review that? Does anybody have any comments they need to bring up right now?
I move that we approve the minutes from October 9th
As amended.
as amended.
I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Chirag Staliker Totally in favor, yes.
Not that late. It's only 10 of 8.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Last one on here.
Yeah, mine aren't ready yet. That was the October 23rd. It's still got some gaps. I
Yeah.
need to fill in from
Right.
YouTube.
So we got a lot of those done.
Yeah.
So before we close, is there anything else that we should talk about? Please say no. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
To adjourn.
Second?
Second.
At 10 minutes of 8,
Yeah.
9:37.
Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you.
Aye.
Got a lot done in a short time.
All right, Walter. We'll see ya.